Okay, let's look at SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals. The underlying theme for this goal is to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. We're going to look at some of the key statistics for this particular goal, and you'll see many of them refer to global macro statistics like the rising debt burdens among developing countries, threatened the pandemic recovery, but they also threatened the underlying ability of these countries to become sustainable in the longer term. While the amount of official development aid is improving and there is more money being given to poor countries, the target percentages that were set have not actually been met yet. We'll have a look at this in some of the targets. Internet uptake, while it has accelerated, is still only at 63, or was at 63%, up from 54% in 2019. It's now at 63% in 2021. One of the more negative major statistics is that official development aid for Sustainable Development Goal data declined by more than 18% in 2020. So you can see a lot of these statistics are global metadata. So this goal has 19 targets, and we shall have a look at them now. Target 17.1, strengthen domestic resource mobilization through international support to developing countries to improve domestic capacity for tax and other revenue collection. You'll notice I left out the word including. I tend to do that sometimes because I think it's needlessly included in some of the goals. So what is domestic resource mobilization? It's the ability of a state to mobilize its own resources and collect taxes to pay for essential services like education, health, social protection, security, etc. This is at the very heart of a properly functioning government. All countries need to review their capacity to improve and use revenue in a more equitable way, and this includes supporting developing countries. The indicators for this particular goal are total government revenue as a proportion of GDP by source and the proportion of domestic budget funded by domestic taxes. Target 17.2. Developed countries are to implement fully their official development assistance commitments, including the commitment by many developed countries to achieve the target of 0.7% of gross national income for official development aid. And you can see there that there is a fraction produced there, so ODA over GNI. So just to put that in context, if the gross national income of a country was 1,000 euros and the official development aid was 7, that would be 0.7%. So that puts in context what we're looking at as a target. They're looking then at putting that particular ratio to developing countries at 0.15 to 2%. For the least developed countries, ODA providers are encouraged to consider setting targets to provide at least 0.2% of ODA over GNI to least developed countries. So you can see there's a set of targets there. Target 17.3, mobilize additional financial resources for developing countries from multiple sources. What is evident, even in Ireland, is that the gap between rich and poor has continually increased for years. I wonder, do you think if it's fair that the country in which you were born dictates your opportunity to fulfill not only your basic needs but your wants? I think these are key questions when we're looking at sustainable development and global sustainable development. Developed countries need to do more to support developing countries. I think we probably all agree with that, and hopefully we will be able to find some ways that we can support that. The indicator for this particular goal are additional financial resources mobilized for developing countries from multiple sources and the volume of remittances measured in dollars in this case as a proportion of total GDP. Target 17.4. Assist developing countries in attaining long-term debt sustainability through coordinated policies aimed at fostering debt financing, debt relief and debt restructuring as appropriate, and address the external debt of highly indebted poor countries to reduce debt stress. You would wonder how we can achieve a more equitable world when developing countries are crippled by debt. Many developing countries are impacted by natural disasters. It doesn't seem fair that such incidents spiral them further into debt. Debt restructuring is required and global partnership is required if we want to achieve this. So the indicator for this are debt services as a proportion of exports of goods and services. Target 17.5. Adopt and implement investment promotion regimes for least developed countries. Investment promotion regimes basically refer to putting measures in place to encourage foreign investment in least developed countries. The obvious reason being to increase employment and the domestic revenue for the country. The indicator for this is the number of countries that adopt and implement investment promotion regimes for developing countries, including the least developed countries. Target 17.6. Enhance North-South, South-South and triangular regional and international cooperation on and access to science, technology and innovation, and enhanced knowledge sharing on mutually agreed terms through improved coordination among existing mechanisms, in particular at the UN level and through a global technology facilitation mechanism. So this is basically about enhancing cooperation among a number of members. The term triangular there refers to south-south-north triangulation in relation to cooperation. We'll have a look at that a little bit more in one of the next targets. In order to move towards global equality, we must share knowledge, share technology and innovation. How can developing countries become sustainable without internet access or without renewable energy? These are key questions. The indicator for this are looking at fixed internet broadband subscriptions per 100 inhabitants by speed. Target 17.7. Promote the development, transfer, dissemination and diffusion of environmentally sound technologies to developing countries on favourable terms, including on concessional and preferential terms as mutually agreed. In fairness, what use is the technology if it's not shared? One country cannot change the world, nor can one country look after the environment. Whether countries agree or not, we are all in this together and we must cooperate. Hence, partnership is key to delivering on sustainability and indeed delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals. The indicator for this particular goal is the total amount of funding for developing countries to promote the development, transfer, dissemination and diffusion of environmentally sound technologies. The diffusion of environmentally sound technologies will be a very important theme that we will see in many of the following units on the SDGs. Target 17.8. Fully operationalize the technology bank and science, technology and innovation capacity building mechanisms for least developed countries by 2017 and enhance the use of enabling technology, in particular ICT, information and communications technology. Now, this target was set for 2017. I wonder, does anyone believe that it has been achieved fully or achieved at all? We can have a look at some statistics later. In 2020, Ireland's statistics tell us that we had 4.55 million users out of 4.98, which is a very significant number. This target is making progress, but no matter what country you live in, what would it be like if you didn't have internet access? So the indicator for this is pretty straightforward. It's the proportions of individuals using the internet. Target 17.9. Enhanced international support for implementing effective and targeted capacity building in developing countries to support national plans to implement all the Sustainable Development Goals through North-South, South-South and triangular cooperation. Now I said I'd get back to triangular cooperation. South-South and triangular cooperation is a development and humanitarian program modality mandated by the member states of the UN as articulated in numerous international agreements and UN General Assembly resolutions. Countries in the Global South have gained considerable knowledge and experience from decades of national development progress and international development assistance, which they can then share with other countries in the Global South. So that's the South-South, and then the triangulation element is bringing the North into it as well. The indicator for this is the dollar value of financial and technical assistance committed to developing countries. Target 1710. Promote a universal, rules-based, open, non-discriminatory and equitable multilateral trading system under the World Trade Organization through the conclusion of negotiations under its Doha development. In simple terms, the Doha Development Agenda is about lower barriers and encouraging global trade for all countries. Another vital step in developing partnerships and shared success for all countries, not just a few of them. So the indicator for this is the worldwide weighted tariff average. 1711. Significantly increase the exports of developing countries, in particular with a view to doubling the least developed countries' share of global exports by 2020. Clearly, this is a target or a stepping stone to the overall targets here, and the indicator for this is developing countries and least developed countries' share of global exports. Target 1712. Realize timely implementation of duty-free and quota-free market access on a lasting basis for all least developed countries, consistent with WTO decisions, by ensuring that preferential rules of origin applicable to imports from least developed countries are transparent, simple, and contribute to facilitating market access. So this is just a way of equalizing the table for the players from the less developed countries. If tariffs are so high, least developed countries cannot access the market, how are they to improve their situation? The indicator for this are the weighted average tariffs faced by developing countries, least developed countries, and small island developing states. Target 1713, enhance global macroeconomic stability, including through policy coordination and policy coherence. What are macroeconomics? They're basically they analyze the economy as whole, and they ask questions like what causes unemployment, what causes inflation. Macroeconomics attempt to measure how well an economy is performing, understand why, and project how performance can be improved, allowing for informed decision making in terms of addressing poverty and indeed addressing development in general. The indicator for this is the macroeconomic dashboard, and that basically is a set of tools that can be used to monitor economic performance. Target 1714, enhance policy coherence for sustainable development. Policy coherence for sustainable development is referring to approaching policy with the economic, social, environmental, and governance dimensions of sustainable development all in mind. As explored in Unit 1, we cannot simply trade them off against each other. We must take a bigger picture view and give each pillar its appropriate importance, value, and consideration. The indicator for this goal are the number of countries with mechanisms in place to enhance policy coherence of sustainable development. 1715. Respect each country's policy space and leadership to establish and implement policies for poverty eradication and sustainable development. Each country, each culture, each set of circumstances and belief systems impact how policies can be put in place and how much success they will actually reach. How would we feel, I suppose, if the USA or Russia were to establish policies here? Each country needs to respect and they need the space to join the conversation, learn from each other, and implement policies that will work for their own people. The indicator for this target are the extent of countries' owned result, the extent of use of country-owned result frameworks and planning tools by providers of development cooperation. Some of these indicators and targets have some technical terms in them, but we will be dealing with those in a bit more detail in the SDG 17 unit. Target 1716. Enhance the global partnership for sustainable development complemented by multi-stakeholder partnerships that mobilize and share knowledge, expertise, technology, and financial resources to support the achievement of the SDGs in all countries, in particular with a focus on developing countries. Basically, I think the SDGs cannot be achieved without partnerships and without global partnerships. Basically, it means we must share knowledge, data, technology, financial resources, and have meaningful discussions and collaborations with each other. The indicator for this target are the number of countries reporting progress in multi-stakeholder development effectiveness monitoring frameworks that support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Target 17. Encourage and promote effective public, private, and civil society partnerships building on the experience and resourcing strategies of partnerships. Public-private partnerships have many benefits and lead to large-scale projects being completed successfully where each sector learns and gains from the partnerships. Partnerships are required and help the economy to function, for example, in the development and building of infrastructure, which we're all familiar with in Ireland. The indicator for this is the amount in dollars committed to public-private partnerships for infrastructure. Goal 17, Target 18. This is quite long and there's a lot of explanatory terms in this, so I will go through this in bits. By 2020, enhance capacity building support to developing countries for least developed countries and small island developing states to increase significantly the availability of high quality, timely, and reliable data disaggregated by income, gender, age, race, ethnicity, migratory status, disability, geographic location, and other characteristics in national contexts. So basically, you can see here there are a lot of qualifiers on at the end of that, but it's basically to enhance capacity building support to developing countries. The indicators for this particular target are the statistical capacity indicator for SDG monitoring, the number of countries that have national statistical legislation that complies with the fundamental principles of official statistics, and the number of countries with a national statistical plan that is fully funded and under implementation by source of funding. This SDG is about capacity building and sharing data. Target 19. By 2030, build on existing initiatives to develop measurements of progress on sustainable development that complement gross domestic product and support statistical capacity building in developed countries. Statistical capacity is a nation's ability to collect, analyze, and share high-quality data about its population and economy. This data is important to make informed decisions about government resources, private sector investment, as well as for monitoring the SDGs. The indicator for this target are the dollar value of all resources made available to strengthen statistical capacity in developing countries, and the proportion of countries that have A, conducted at least one population and housing census, and B, have achieved 100% birth registration and 80% death registration. So they're quite technical indicators. So that concludes the 19 targets on Sustainable Development Goal 17. I think that is the Sustainable Development Goal with the most targets. They discuss fairly macro issues like finance, technology, capacity building, trade, systemic issues, data sharing, statistics. So this target is about the required global partnership of sharing knowledge, technology, and financial resources that are required to move towards a more sustainable way of living for everyone. And ultimately, if we all work together, we should be able to achieve the goals, hopefully by 2030 or thereabouts.